How are we feeling, Miami Dolphins fans? A lot riding here on this final week of the NFL regular season. Obviously, not only do we need to win, but as we've stated time and time again, and as you've heard numerous times, we obviously also need the Kansas City Chiefs to win. So will it finally be that year where we can get lucky, where we can have someone else help us get into the playoffs? I know none of us wanted it really to end this way. You'd rather have a playoff seed clinched by now, have the division clinched by now. But obviously everything we've gone to, one of the viewer questions that came in is going to gel well into really what went wrong, what could have been this year. We'll obviously get to that. We'll get to everything in here in a second. But this is the life we live right now, Dolphins fans. We got to win. We need help. And then we got a chance to extend our season into the postseason. We're going to jump into everything here in a second. If you haven't checked out the first preview video for the Dolphins-Jets Week 18 matchup, go back, definitely check that one out. Before we jump into things today, also, got to hear from you. Your final thoughts on this game, whether or not you think we're going to end up making the playoffs, your final score predictions, you know what to do. Go ahead and drop them in the comments. If you haven't gotten subscribed yet, would absolutely love it and be thrilled if you did that as well. Make this a great new year because, man, I tell you what, those postseason aspirations, probably pretty bleak. We will jump into that in a second, though. As you can tell, the injury report from Friday is scrolling on the bottom line. I'm recording this Saturday morning, and as you can see, based on what everything's been telling you so far on the scroll, the final injury report, Tua is likely out again. He is listed as doubtful. Now, the one thing that he did say to the media on Friday, he said that, I think he said it maybe on Thursday. He said, you know what, if we do get into the playoffs, I am playing next week. And he seemed pissed. He seemed very adamant about that. At the same time, I know we've talked a lot about like this really not being a Tua decision for him not playing both last week against the Browns and now this week here, likely against the Jets. It's really a coaching front office move. So he put it out there. He basically said, you know what, I'm going to go against what you guys think. I'm going to go against what I've been advised. I'm going to be out there if it's a playoff matchup. This team needs me. Well, quite honestly, we need you this week. But how things are going right now, obviously Huntley's been getting the majority of the reps with the starters. It's likely going to end up being Tyler Huntley, and we will cross that bridge next week if we need to with Tua Tagovailoa. But regardless, he is doubtful for Sunday against the Jets. Now on the offensive line, Teron Armstead is going to be a true game time decision, at least based on what the team was saying on Friday. So now if he does end up playing, now that Kendall Lamb has had surgery, he's gone on IR. My assumption, my guess here is that Patrick Paul would then end up sliding over to right tackle. We will end up seeing how that one plays out on the offensive line. Now, we did have a player come down with an illness on a Friday as well, and that was wide receiver Tyreek Hill. There's always got to be something. It's always got to be something. Even a guy that, he's been questionable the last, month plus of the season, but now you're going to throw an illness on this as well. So he's listed as questionable. I would assume it's not going to get too crazy. We should see him ready to go as well. As of the wide receiver position as well, Jaylen Waddle, who has missed the previous 2 games for the Miami Dolphins, is listed as questionable. The good news, however, is he got a full practice in on a Friday, and Mike McDaniel sounded fairly optimistic about his availability going into New York against the Jets on Week 18 as well. But one other thing to be cautious about, Calais Campbell did pop up on the injury report on Friday with a neck injury. That one sort of came a little bit out of nowhere on Friday. He is listed as questionable. We will wait and see on that one. The big things for the Jets, 2 of their biggest defenders, both Sauce Gardner, he is out of this game. I believe he was out the last time we played him as well. So we're going to go the full season here without seeing Sauce Gardner, and then Quinnen Williams, one of their best, obviously, defensive linemen, one of the better ones in the entire NFL, is listed as questionable. So maybe that can help get this run game for us offensively going a little bit. But I will say, even on these games where we've been struggling against the run, even when we've been playing against teams that aren't statistically all that good against the run, it really hasn't helped us all that much. So it can't hurt, but at the end of the day, it's another guy for the Jets that is at least questionable for this one. Let's transition into some of the top things I'm going to keep my eye on here on Sunday. Now, this one is very obvious and has really nothing to do with our Dolphins games, but it's the other game in that window that we are going to all be keeping an eye on, and that is the Denver Broncos hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs came out on Friday and ruled out, get ready for the list, Isaiah Pacheco, Jawan Taylor, Mecole Hardman, Jalen Watson, and then add doubtful, even longer list, Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton, Kareem Hunt, George Karlaftis, Travis Kelce, Justin Reed, Drew Tranquill. Besides that, that's their starting running back, their backup running back, their starting right tackle, their starting quarterback, their starting tight end. Chris Jones is one of the best defensive tackles in the entire game. That's 3 Hall of Famers. Justin Reed, who's a really good safety. This is basically what we're looking at here is a preseason week 1 inactive. These guys aren't going to even suit up type of list. So to say that I feel confident in this one would be a very long shot. I know it's the NFL. Anything can happen. The backups, Carson Wentz and company, are going to need to step up and make some plays in order for this to really shake out for us. And I would say the players are going to go all out. You're not going to see NFL players really not. If they're on the field, they're going to end up going all out, these backup players. What concerns me probably the most, because the NFL, anything can happen. These guys are in the NFL for a reason. But what concerns me the most is the play calling. If it comes out and Andy Reid's like, you know what, I'm just going to go vanilla. I'm not going to show any more than I have to. We're going to get through this game. We're going to try to be competitive. We're not going to go out there and empty out the playbook against the Denver Broncos this week. That's probably the biggest thing that scares me. But regardless, we need the Chiefs to take care of business. So that's a thing that I have got my eye on. Another thing on my list. Can Snoop do it again? We need you, Snoop. Can you do it again? And we saw Tyler Huntley carry the offense last week in a way that we haven't seen a backup quarterback be able to do during the Tua Tagovailoa, Mike McDaniel era. And that's when we've had success with Tua out basically only when we've been able to run the ball. Well, guess what? Last week we couldn't run the ball, but we still won 20-3 against the Browns. And I get it. The Browns are going through some stuff right now. It's not a quality opponent, but we saw a couple of different things going on. We saw Mike McDaniel simplify the offense, put Snoop Huntley into a situation where he can succeed. Less motion, less pre-snap stuff. Just let him go in there, make a first read. If the ball's not there for your first and second read, guess what? You can tuck and run. Some design, more designed a little bit, quarterback runs as well. Really tailoring the offense the way he tailors it to Tua, tailoring it to a backup quarterback. In this situation, Tyler Huntley, and it worked. But now, was that a one-time thing, or can we continue to see that going, especially if the run game doesn't translate? Once again, as we've seen over the last, 2 months now, some ups and downs with the run games, but more downs with the run game. Can we see Tyler Huntley put this team on his back if we need to, the way that Tua had to do it in the first matchup against the Jets? Yeah, definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. And lastly, we talked about this potentially being a final game for an all-time great quarterback, obviously being Aaron Rodgers. Now, I think about what teams have had success against him during his year with the Jets, and that's when they can get pressure on him, frustrate him, don't let him get into a groove. Now, we did end up sacking him 3 times in that matchup. I believe it was back on December 8th. But if you remember that, all those sacks basically came at the end, which is a great time to get sacks. That's how you close out games. I get it, but I would have loved to see a more consistent pass rush throughout that entire game. For the most part, in that game, we were getting very little pass rush, and we were falling for his fakes. Aaron Rodgers is not the type of quarterback right now, like a Josh Allen, where you're going to be falling for fakes. You just drive at his hips, and you just end him at that point in time. Change it up this week. Get to him early. Don't fall for his fakes. Get him frustrated rather than letting him settle in like we did a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago now at this point in time, when he ended up going for like 340 yards and making that game a lot closer, a lot more competitive than it needed to be. All right, let's knock out some viewer questions. I always put who the question was from at the end, and numerous people asked a very similar question about Chris Grier, the Miami Dolphins general manager position. So numerous gets the shout out in this one. I asked about this Friday evening, was basically told that the team is truly still waiting to see how things shake out with Sunday, whether or not we make the playoffs, all things considered, how things truly shake out on Sunday. They do, however, have a list of potential general manager candidates that has already been established in the event they end up going that route. So they do have an established list that they have been working on in the event they move on from Chris Grier. Now, I wasn't given the list of names. I know a couple people had asked for some potential names. I was not given any names. However, I can tell you they have definitely been doing their homework in case they move on from Chris Grier. So a little bit of a beat around the bush answer, but that's what I've got, and that's what I'm able to give you today. All right, Daniel came in. AFC player of the defensive player of the week last week. Yeah, Tyrell Dodson. What a great showing he had in that game against the Browns. Is he in the Dolphins' plans to be a starter next season? Well, Tyrell Dodson, unfortunately, is actually scheduled to be a free agent after this season. So re-signing him in general would have to be the first priority. So I did ask about this as well, and I was told that both Anthony Weaver and Mike McDaniel really like Dodson, both on the field and what he's doing on the field and what he brings to the locker room as well. Also, he seems to be doing a very good job gelling with a guy like Jordan Brooks. So a lot of times with teams, it's about fit. Small sample size so far, but at the end of the day, it does look like it's been a good fit. So the coaches really like that. However, as of right now, like I said, he is scheduled to be a free agent if things continue to go well this Sunday. Obviously, we could see if something goes into the postseason. The team's plan is, as of right now, to at least entertain the idea of offering him a contract. So it's not like he was going to be a one-year rental. We didn't make it work this year. We're showing you the door. They've seen enough where, as of things, how they stand as of today, Saturday, January 4th, their intentions are to offer him a contract this offseason. Sorry for any jumpiness there. Had to pause real quick. The next question is coming in from Andrew Star 412. Which practice squad players would you like to see get promoted as a bit of a last chance to see if they've got it? Obviously, looking into the 2025 season as well. Like I mentioned earlier, I am recording this on Saturday morning, so I haven't seen any of the elevations the team may have made at this point in time. My guess, my assumption is, however, we're not really going to see anything out of the norm this week since the playoffs are still at stake, since we're playing at 425. So is that Broncos Chiefs game as well. So we're not really going to know anything. So I don't think the team is just going to experiment with anybody since playoffs are still a thing. I would say, though, if the playoffs weren't at stake and we wanted to kind of kick the tires on some guys, my list of players, I got 3 guys, all secondary guys, obviously safety reasons for sure. Jordan Colbert, cornerback Isaiah Johnson, and cornerback Jason Maitre. Now, these are guys that have been with us throughout OTAs, training camp, preseason, and obviously now onto the practice squad. But those were the guys in the offseason that I kind of considered those fringe guys. Those fringe guys that flashed some in training camp and in preseason that just didn't quite make the roster. So it's a guy like that I would like to say, hey, you know what? Get this guy into a game. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if that's something that we want to continue to invest in 2025. However, like I said, with playoffs still at stake, not sure we really do any sort of experimenting. Let's do one more before the final prediction. John comes in. What do you consider to be the most frustrating thing this season? Now, this is that question I was sort of alluding to earlier in the video. My honest answer, my first come to mind answer is injuries for the 3rd straight season. Injuries just continue to derail us. But I also think that's a cop-out answer, so I'll give you something else. And we see other teams go through injuries. Look at the Detroit Lions right now. I made a comment. I was talking to my dad on the phone. He's also a Dolphins fan. I told him at one point, we were talking about some fantasy stuff. I said, you know what? Maybe we should use Sam Darnold this week because me and you could go out in the yard right now, play catch against Detroit's team, and probably find some success. Now, obviously, I'm speaking in hyperbole right there, but they are so beaten up, but yet they're playing for the number 1 seed. They're finding a way to win. We need to learn how to do that. But injuries aside, my biggest, and I got a lot of complaints, but my biggest one that really came to mind, I didn't want to think too deep. I asked myself this question. I said, what's the other thing that comes to your mind? And it's short yardage situations. The inability, the lack of interest of putting in a heavy formation and power football up the middle. Now, I'm hoping that's something that can change as Hopefully this offseason we can add to the interior offensive lineman, get dirtier, get nastier, get more aggressive in the trenches. So hopefully that's something that can go right now. Maybe truly Mike McDaniel just doesn't believe that we have a team that's capable of plunging for a yard. I mean, we did do it with Jeff Wilson against the 49ers. Well, like I said, maybe that was more of a tease, but the short yardage situations, the inability to adapt and make a change over the last couple of years, that has been very frustrating to me. All right, throw yours in the comments as well. What's been your most frustrating thing? I'd love to see where the answers come in on that. All right, here's my prediction. I think we take care of business. I think we get it done 20-18. Like I said, we're in a situation where we're up against a couple of things. We talked about lack of success with the run game. We talked about injuries on the offensive line. We talked about Snoop Huntley needing to put together potentially back-to-back games where the team is on his back and he has to be the one that gets it done. Now add to this, the Jets know they're not playing for anything, but we talked about it in the first video. A potential last game for a Hall of Fame quarterback that has a huge ego. He doesn't want to end out on a losing streak. He would want to, if he's going to go out, he wants to throw for 404 touchdowns, right? I don't think our defense is going to allow that. I think maybe this is some homerness coming out. So holding them to 18 would feel like if you can hold the Jets to 18, you should win this game. We've proven that we can score a little bit now, even when Tua's out of the game. We have to be able to get it done with Quinnen Williams being questionable, with Sauce Gardner being out. Now, if I had to put another prediction on this as well, the Denver Broncos are favored by double digits against the Chiefs. I quite honestly don't envision a way where the Chiefs win this game. So unfortunately, I think we take care of business, but the Chiefs don't. So unfortunately, I think this will be it for us as Miami Dolphins fans and regarding to watch our favorite team be able to play on each weekend for the rest of the season. But I'm happy being wrong with that Chiefs Broncos prediction. But like I said, drop your thoughts as well. How do you see that game playing out? Drop everything that you've got for this one in the comments. Dolphins fans, we'll be back at some point after the game, recapping everything, talking about whether or not we made or missed the playoffs. Obviously, we'll be talking about all that stuff after the game. You got to give a shout out to all the loyal viewers, the people that have been obviously subscribed, liking every single video, that comment on a video by video basis. If I had a hat, I'd take it off to you. You guys are one of the biggest reasons why I continue to be able to come out here and put these videos out for you. So thank you very much. I hope you guys are having a great holidays, great new year, all the above. Let's wrap it there, Dolphins fans. Let's get a win and let's pray that the Chiefs can do the same. All right, Dolphins fans, we'll talk to you guys after the game. Until then, fins up.